Welcome, aspiring filmmakers of the new Hollywood generation. My name is Orlando Delbert. This is Hollywood Unapologetic. Today I want to speak about filmmaking essentials, film distribution, distributors as digital rights managers, and the new Hollywood generation. If you haven't watched Filmmaking Essentials, Film Distribution Basics, Distribution Strategy, and the new Hollywood generation, I'll have a link at the end of this episode for you to check out. Want to succeed in filmmaking? It's an honest question. I ask this because so many filmmakers I've known and met over the years don't develop a distribution strategy during the development stage of film production. When looking at your distribution options for your film, it's important to understand film rights and content licensing before signing off on any distribution deal. Not knowing or fully understanding these crucial details is probably the biggest mistake I've seen over and over again that aspiring filmmakers make with their first and even their second and third finished films. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. As part of your distribution strategy, you should plan for possible distribution opportunities being split up. I did mention this in a Film Distribution Basics, Film Distribution Strategy episode. If you haven't seen it and want to know more about having a distribution strategy, go check it out after this episode. I remember being part of a group of filmmakers shooting feature films with what was available and what we could afford and ran with it decades ago. When the DV video format was launched in 1996, we learned as much as we could about the technology at the core. We ripped apart our old Apple computers, rigging up anything and everything to make the limited technology available work. The lossy compression was a challenge, but it was just another part of problem solving inherent with filmmaking. We recognized shooting digitally was the way the motion picture industry would be headed and created strategies that got our films distributed decades ago. We were shooting digitally before even George Lucas and the Lucasfilm Limited guys were. Fast forward decades later, and the technology and the related costs have changed dramatically for the better. It really gets under my skin when so much focus on the shooting 4K today is pushed on aspiring filmmakers that never shot a film of their own. For most of you watching this, you really don't need it, but more importantly, a lot of time is simply wasted that can be used on producing your own projects today. I mentioned all of this because we realized early on in our filmmaking careers to work with what was available and what we could afford is far more important than what it was shot on. The strategy made towards distributions were considered early on in the project's development stage. Technology will always change. With that said, you should be mindful of how content is being produced today is changing and has been changing rapidly for some time. Anyone today can create a film using their smartphone that's sitting in their pocket or purse. Filmmaking today is largely thought about the moving image or moving picture over the format of film itself. Some see the power of authority of documentaries losing some of its stature to the documenting of reality, such as what can be found on television programming on reality shows and on digital platforms like YouTube today. This has caused some film distribution companies to rethink how they approach their distribution strategies. More progressive distributors identify today's viewers as not being passive, but more being active participants, due in part to their influence through social media and their ability to use their smartphones to share their thoughts immediately to the world. Think about it. The message has far more weight than what was used to capture it. This has caused distribution companies to act more like digital rights managers. The goal of any distribution company is to create a distribution strategy for their clients to maximize audience viewership and revenue. This involves taking advantage of current and future technology on a client-by-client basis. No two film launches will ever be the same because of the fast-changing digital trends, and the specific intended audiences may be influenced by global influences. The younger the intended audience, the more likely they are creating their own content themselves to some degree. Plus the limitations many filmmakers and studios still have today that they only see legacy forms of distribution as the primary way to go. Yes, having a broad release for a film studio makes a lot of sense when they have millions of dollars to use just for the promotion of their summer tentpoles. But for most independents, a broad release is just not a possibility. Most independent films lack the exposure Hollywood studio films have. The studios have the resources for an on-air ad time and in-person interviews of their on-camera talent on nationally broadcast TV shows. When a producer decides it's time to reach out to distributors, it's important to actually know what a distributor does. Like I've already mentioned, they create a distribution strategy for their clients to maximize audience viewership and revenue. A big part of that is a marketing strategy, and it's very expensive. Distributors are being paid to engage your target demographic through outreach and engagement, and the film distributor has to begin promoting your film from scratch. That can be through social media or buying ads in magazines and newspapers. A theatrical release gives your film the opportunity for critical exposure in newspapers and public attention. The more public attention your project has, the perceived value of your film goes up. And distributors have a formula they run. In its simplest form, they look at the possible perceived value of your film with an attached dollar value to it. They look at how much the operating cost would be to run a marketing campaign, including a theatrical release, and what the expended gross revenue would be. There has to be enough of a surplus of funds after their associated operating costs and their set profit margins are reached. As a filmmaker, you have to be clear on what your delivery options and what the markets are when you speak to a film distributor. You have to be clear on what your distributor's strategy is and the specifics on your film's digital rights across each digital platform would be. You have to be clear on the specifics of the marketing campaign, how much lead time they need, costs, and the coordinated efforts across the various digital platforms. One of the things mentioned throughout this series, Hollywood is about making money. What that truly means, you and I are of little significance to the bean counters and check signers unless we're able to produce something that can be monetized in their best interest, not ours. This is certainly true in the distribution side because billions of dollars every year come directly from distribution. Many creative artisans don't fully understand or open to that line of thinking. This only hinders his or her chances of success, unfortunately, when it comes to deal making and negotiating. So many filmmakers get burned once they're looking for distribution options because they don't always fully understand what they are signing off on. These details can be somewhat confusing or even daunting for some. Believe me, I get it. By this point, you should have an experienced entertainment attorney representing your deal. An experienced entertainment attorney's job is to be your advocate. You want someone who is able to negotiate, or better said, improve a distributor's offer. Getting an entertainment attorney on board ensures you and everyone involved gets the best deal while protecting your project legally and financially. As members of the new Hollywood generation, we're all in it together. Be safe, be smart, and don't forget to be great. More on success in filmmaking, success in life can be found in Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, Survival Guide Against the Cynicism and Hypocritical. I'm going to add a link at the very end to this episode, Filmmaking Essentials, Film Distribution Basics, Distribution Strategy, and the new Hollywood generation. Go check it out. Are you ready for the challenge?